Hey, darlings. Maya and Maxim slowly walked along the embankment of their big city, holding hands tightly. The young people seemed to have noticed nothing around them. They were completely absorbed into each other. From the outside, no one could even imagine that these two were actually not so long. You can even say that it's just a few months. But sometimes it happens that people meet and understand they are just created for each other. And there is no doubt about that anymore. They had just that magical period of relationship when everything said by the partner is perceived as good and right. And from the side, it seemed that the couple was not going, but literally flying in the air. Maya was happy. So much. How can you be happy next to your beloved man? And Maxim was also incredibly happy that they could find each other with Maya. Here in the metropolis, when they had such miserable chances for this long-awaited and necessary meeting. Maxim suggested the girl to go to a small cafe that was famous not only for its excellent homemade cuisine, cozy interiors, high-quality service, but also for live music, which was often listened to here on purpose, even from other areas of the city. Maya agreed, because she could be next to Max everywhere and always. And it doesn't matter what's around. Cafe is cafe. He would say that he needs to go to the tundra or swim to the islands in the middle of the northern ice ocean and go there without thinking. The main thing is that Max was there. Without him, the girl literally could not breathe. When they lined up for a small round table for two, set in a corner and covered with a snow-white snowboard, Maya thought that Maxim wanted to tell her something, but he pulled on it. At first, the man looked at the clock, and as if he did not dare to start talking about what bothered him. Then he just looked around, as if in search of a topic for a future conversation. Then he talked about some trifles and just crumbled the conversation. But Maya patiently waited. She was persistent, and she did not doubt that sooner or later he would tell her about what was bothering him and torturing his soul. He would tell her without any pressure from her side. And then she would definitely listen to him. Because Maxim is her first love, and she does not need another man. And if he has any problems, she will help him solve them. If he finds any request, she will never refuse. If she is guilty of something, she will immediately apologize. In other words, in any way of events development, she can be useful to him. But the young man did not hurry to start this conversation, which was, of course, incredibly important for Maya. He then rolled a napkin in his hands, devouring the dish from the menu with his eyes. He looked around in search of a waitress, then just shyly smiled at her as a person who wants to say something, but for some reason cannot. Well, that's okay. It's nothing. Maya will wait. Who knows why this man doesn't know where to start? Suddenly the girl was struck by the idea. What if Maxim wants to make her an offer? Well, really. What if he gets a luxurious box from the red velvet from his pocket? He will open it with one click. She saw this in the movies. He will take out a thin ring with a pebble from it and solemnly stand on one knee. Of course, she will not refuse him. She just won't be able to refuse. They know each other for a short time, just 3 months and 1 week, but she has already managed to make sure that it was with Maxim that she was ready to live her whole life. Maybe Maxim also had enough of these weeks to understand that without her, he cannot feel himself truly happy. Maya sat on a chair and listened to her companion as if enchanted. She literally looked into his mouth. The girl liked so much what Maxim told her. Moreover, the young man was a great speaker. He was a professional masseur and knew a lot of thematic stories. Maxim looked at the girl sitting opposite him and was disgusted. He understood that he had to do what he had planned, that he was bound to do it, and it doesn't matter at all how and why and what will happen to her next. Although maybe everything will be fine. Maybe they will be better justified from his premonitions, and everything will grow together. But it would be strange to count on what will be lucky for him and that everything will go smoothly, without a bitch and without a mess. He must deceive her. A small, such a cute deception, which, however, will involve many others. So his mother also said the same thing and called his son not to get attached to a girl who was destined to fulfill this tricky mission for him. But no, you can't command your heart, and he still got attached to her. You can't even say that at first glance how Maya hooked him. It's simple. It seems parents from the village don't help, as he understood, and looks at him with his eyes in love with Lana. Under such a look, Maxim will become uncomfortable in 4 hours. But he must. He still does not have another way, but he really needs it. Therefore, he will do what he planned, and then whatever happens. The young man got the courage and covered his maize palm. Strong, strong, with professionally processed nails. In other words, his palm could serve as an example for some sculptor if he decided to pull something out of the marble as beautiful, as perfect as it is. Maya looked at how her companion smiled, how he glistens with his eyes when he was having fun, and how he was jittering with pleasure, tasting the wine brought to the waiters, and understood. She will not be able to live without him. Maxim is the best thing that happened to her. And even if he does not make her an offer now, and just sit with him in this small cafe, she will go home with the happiest girl on the planet. For what such merits, she was so lucky that she liked him. After all, Maxim is perfection itself, especially against the background of those guys who are losers, which were regularly glued to May. May was a newcomer in this city. She is a girl from the province, was born and grew up in a small village, 3 hours' drive from here. Her life there was not as fun as the city's slums, but still quite interesting. The girl actually grew up under the supervision of a strict old grandmother, her mother's mother. Parents worked literally without bending their backs. The father was a tractor driver at a local farm, and in the hot season of planting or harvesting, he could sometimes even spend the night in the field. The mother was an economist in the office, but in fact she did a huge number of all kinds of tasks, so they didn't have so many opportunities to take care of the children. He was only a year older than the girl, and that's why they grew up like twins. Always together and always close.
Don't spill water.
Grandma was strict, but the guys didn't torture her too much with discipline. She also loved them, both for herself and for her parents, who did not always have time to show their love to children. From an early age, Sasha and Maya began to help Grandma in everything that concerned. Despite the fact that the children were lucky to be born and live in the SD century, they were brought up with an understanding that you need to be able to do almost everything with your own hands. Therefore, from the grandmother to the teenage age, Maya adopted the ability to sew, and the ability to bake bread, and the understanding of what and how to grow in the garden. In other words, she was considered a beautiful mistress for her own young age. Financially, her parents did not suffer. Not without the fact that some wishes had to be a little bit saved, but in general, the children had everything they needed, and good clothes, and gadgets that they wanted, and holidays held at the sea. However, this was a bit problematic, because the household will not wait, because it was the grandmother who often went to the sea with them, while the parents pulled the strap in the village. The school was not the best in the district, because the children would get higher education in the city, and there was no doubt. Only there you had to be able to enter, but how if the local school does not shine? It was one of those institutions where the bodybuilding and physics could be taught by the same person, just because they look alike. The family council decided that Sasha and Maya, together with an old but still strong grandmother, will go to the city after each of them finishes classes at a village school, to enter the city into a normal educational institution and have a good chance of getting into a decent university. The first to go to the regional city was Alexander. He was not only a year older than his sister, but also much more insolent, more impudent, and higher. He hardly agreed to live under the supervision of the old woman, and the parents realized that sooner or later the son would rebel. City life and new friends will definitely come to mind. So, in general, it happened. Alexander entered one of the good district schools and began to have more fun there than to study. In the village, everything was easier and more difficult at the same time. The teacher on a short leg is almost with all the parents of his caretakers, and the mothers and fathers at home may not be able to hang the backrest and attach it to the household, so that there is no time for the parents, and parents at home may not be able to hang the backrest and attach it to the household. Here in the city, everything went wrong at once, and Sasha did not slow down to use it. Grandma was not old enough to run around the school and find out for what reason her grandson again, for the third time in a week, did not attend math class, or why he walked through physics, especially since the assessments on these disciplines did not please neither Sasha nor his parents, and the teachers, of course, were not delighted. Somehow, with grief in half, after studying the first semester, Sasha left school for a light hand-drawing training and educational work and went to the local GPTU. There he chose a specialty that was as close to what he wanted to do in life as possible. Sasha began to study as a car repairman, hoping that in the future, if something goes wrong in the city, he will return to his native village and settle down as a simple mechanic on a farm. Parents had to accept that their first pancake in terms of the city was a coma. But the hope for May, and that her daughter will be able to get out into the world, did not leave her optimistically set up by their mother and father. The girl herself also did not want to stay here where there was no prospect in educational institutions after school and long ago. As a worthy prospect, the girl never even considered herself. The city amazed and enchanted Maya the first time she came to him. For them, they rented an apartment with their grandmother and helped to get all the necessary documents. So, Maya became a student of the city school, the same one in which Sasha once studied so carelessly. Of course, the girl in the new place showed herself in a completely different way. Whether it was natural, some of them are too fast, incomprehensible, in a word, different. But then she found friends, and life began to get better. Despite her external strictness, the grandmother had no complaints about her granddaughter and could not be. And she studies well and spends all the evening at home and does not quarrel with anyone. In a word, a quite ordinary 10-year-old. Maya and her parents were proud. He politely sent her greetings and brother. They helped her overcome some fleeting problems of a friend. It seemed that it would always be so, and nothing would stop the girl on the way to success. From childhood, she liked everything that was connected with teaching. At first, Maya wanted to become a teacher with the expectation that she could stay and work in the same school that gave her a shelter in the first year after her native village. But then the girl changed her mind. She decided that the best future profession would be something related to foreign languages, so she can keep herself and put aside the future for herself and help her parents at the age of old. In short, there are solid advantages and advantages. Maya studied diligently and with all her passion. Yes, and the grandmother remembered the fiasco that she suffered with her eldest grandson, and therefore the lessons and assessments of the girl were checked just indiscriminately. Maya never walked, always on time, and very carefully performed homework, did not be rude to the grandmother, and did not cause any doubts that she could achieve all the goals set. By the end of the th grade, the girl managed to get into a solid high school. For the one who stood next to the board in a village school a year ago, it was even more than a significant achievement. And what was incredible, Maya was one of the best students in the class in a foreign language. In the village, learning English was not a big deal. Well, some foreign language, if even the teacher himself, and he confuses the words when trying to read the content of the textbook. Even modern technology did not help much in studying the wisdom of the German philology novel, because it was simply not enough time and desire to use the fashionable internet resources. In the village, children often work on par with adults, without age restrictions. In the city, Maya received such a long-awaited opportunity to learn and was very persistent. She not only attended additional classes for her class, which were assumed to all students without exception, but also asked the English teacher to be able to attend the same additional lessons, but already for other classes, from 2. She was fighting for her place under the sun, and of course she allowed it. So, Maya began to slowly accumulate both vocabulary and speaking skills. At the time when her classmates perceived the training process as a routine, in which there was no place for a holiday, the girl realized something new, because she knew this was the way to success. At that age, she had not yet fully understood what it was that she had to be successful, but she clearly realized that she should work hard, at least in order to never return to her native village without prospects and future. Sasha, the older brother, continued to dig for granite in the local PTO and sometimes kindly touched the sister, who, due to the constant sitting over the books, called the bookworms. But what could he offer her as an alternative? Walking while walking and enjoying life while living well is a great strategy, but, alas, it is very short-term. And Maya wanted to settle in the city to be sure of her future. At the end of the spring, the local university decided to hold an open-door day at the transfer office, and Maya went there, burning with the most kind and magical. Of course, until the moment when she becomes an abiturient and can officially come here for another year. But why not get to know the future alma mater a little closer already now? So to speak, for the future, to understand what to do with it. The university enchanted the girl, with its long, bare corridors and high ceilings in the auditoriums. Maya never thought that can experience mixed feelings in the chest just looking at a pile of gray concrete. Here, hopes for a better future were combined, and the delight from realizing one's involvement and the anticipation of a true holiday. In other words, Maya could not wait for the day when she will be able to try to go there to study. This visit to the university has made the girl study even more persistently, even more systematically. She understood English and everything that was connected with it, systematically and persistently. Very soon, everyone who knew her here in the city school was forced to admit. In just a year, Maya stepped very far ahead. Now, to maintain her level, she took books in the library in a foreign language and read them when with a dictionary, and when, according to her own confession, with Valerianka. But let it be slow, and success came to her. And Maya was quite pleased with herself. No less reasons to rejoice for the daughter were received by the parents. Now, finally, at least one of their children will be able to find themselves in the city. Son, he is a future man, and in any case it will be easier for him to settle in life. He will easily earn everything he needs with his own hands, especially since he chose a very rich profession. So Sasha won't disappear, everything will be fine with him. But with the girl, there will be more trouble. You need to take care of your education, but also about finding a good husband for yourself, and not someone you don't know. In their village, who should they marry? Everyone is the first, and if he doesn't drink carelessly, then it's already good. But only the majority look into the glass on a permanent basis. There is nothing to hope for that they will be able to give birth to a non-alcoholic, and their families in the village are so that it is not known what can be expected from that geneticist. It is better to look for a groom in the city for May, and more prospects and opportunities. And their daughter Maya is smart. She will not disappear. The old grandmother looked at her granddaughter with both eyes, and then she even convinced herself that the girl does not seek to hit all the hard. Despite the fact that, according to the results of the TH grade, the girl did not do well, Maya still received a degree for persistence in school, and such a reward was immediately highly appreciated by the old woman. In other words, life turned out to be better than it could be. The new classmates did not offend Maya. They took her company and almost completely. The girl could easily turn to them for advice or just chat, and never heard of something bad about herself, as if she had not moved from a forgotten village to the city, but got to school on the next street. In a word, the schoolgirl was just incredible, and not in the last place, thanks to her own persistent work. Maya knew what she wanted to achieve, and went to this goal with a moderate 7-mile steps. The girl also had beauty, but not some vulgar, throwy, clingy, but quiet and homey. Mom called Maya's appearance simple, but still considered her daughter pretty charming. The girl could smile like that, only with her eyes. She looked at something in front of her and in her eyes, and sometimes vice versa. It seemed that the sky itself was cloudy in the eyes of May. The girl knew that she could not reach the classic podium beauties, and the skin is not so pale and porcelain, and the figure is a little bit alive, real, not reminiscent of Barbie's doll in her best years. But the will to win and the temperament of life did not let the girl grieve from the awareness of her own imperfections. She was too busy. She studied, tried, made her way in life and did not even think that someone might not like her just because of the inconsistency of the beauty standards developed for silicone hangers, as the mother of modern painted girls called. So Maya was quite happy to enter the time of her life, which we are used to recall with gratitude and tenderness. Youth. The graduate class was marked for the girl with several unpleasant innovations. First, her father fell ill. If earlier, thanks to his earnings, they rented a house from his grandmother and did not worry about anything, that now they had to pay a lot of money for the treatment of the dad, because a lot of money was required for the treatment of the dad. Secondly, Sasha managed to fight someone in the dormitory of the school, and he was simply expelled. They did not even look at the fact that he studied well and gave hopes as a promising specialist. Mom, these two events that happened one by one. She was now happy to have only one daughter. Maya actually tried to make her mother not have to worry and be nervous about her own score. The girl studied very well, managed to run for additional classes after the main ones, and she also managed to win a grant to visit additional classes for those who want to enter the Faculty of Foreign Languages for free. These were organized at the university every year, but getting there was also a task for free. Approval from her relatives. Everyone understood that now, in the near future, they would have a girl. That's about it. One cold morning in late December, her father died, and Maya had to go to his funeral. She never thought that this sad event would happen so early, so terribly early. She was not ready at all for her father to leave them. But what happened happened. Now they are left with their mother and brother, well, with their grandmother, of course, and had to get out of it based on what they could do. They couldn't afford to rent an expensive apartment in the city center. So Maya and her grandmother moved to a residential area. It was a long and difficult journey to get to school, but there was no other way out. Maya decided that she wouldn't bother her mother with her complaints about expensive housing, and she didn't even complain to her mother about the complicated living conditions. She had to study even harder, even harder. There was no dad behind the back who would help and ensure with housing and education if something happened and the girl could not go to university. I had to put much more effort to guarantee myself a place among the best. The second half of the graduate class flew by completely unnoticed. Maya was struggling between school and preparatory courses, but she was worth it. Already in the second half of June, she knew. She entered. Now she is a student, a future translator. By the way, not someone else. For a girl from the depths, it was essentially a phenomenal success. Only it was almost impossible to divide it. Returned to the village and began to work there with a cat. Mom was busy not to let her son walk on the wrong path, and Grandma, finding out that her granddaughter had become a student, sincerely rejoiced for her and even cried. But then she said she would come back to the family. After all, now Maya can live in the dormitory, and they will not have to shake the last penny from the mother's wallet for the. With her mind, the girl realized that such a plan is suitable for everyone and everyone is good, but it was difficult to admit to herself that she was just afraid to be alone with all her problems, all alone in a big city. While the grandmother was next to her, Maya was brave, and now she does not know how to act. But her decision was not required. Look after my brother and guide him on the path of truth. And Maya stayed alone in the city for the summer. However, the girl did not give in to her boredom and quickly found a job for herself. She did not think long and went to the first place she was promised to be taken to. She could not claim prestige, but they paid quite a lot of money there, and on hand, cash and daily. It was about a simple waitress in a small cafe near the student town. There she slowly began to acquire maze-working skills. She was accustomed to execution and clear instruction, and therefore, there were no misunderstandings in the new place. May was quite satisfied with both the schedule and the earnings. Then, when the study began, it became more problematic to combine, because it took a lot of time to give the granite to science, but it was even shameful to take money from mom and grandma without end. Moreover, Maya knew very well that they don't have much money. Not that they are the last, but her family is not shocked, not at all. Therefore, the work was necessary for the girl. If a free minute was given at work, then Maya immediately sat down in the corner of the hall with a suit in her hands. But it was only worth stepping over the threshold to some visitor, as the girl immediately put the notebook aside and grabbed the menu. Maya hoped that the fact that she was already working and at least partially contains herself will help mom and grandma feed themselves in the absence of her father and his big earnings. And so it would be, but Sasha, her older brother, just catastrophically unlucky in life. Mom was forced to spend a lot of money to cover his needs. He took it and did not give it back. He took someone else's motorcycle and broke it. He lost an impressive amount of money in the cards. He took the tool for rolling and just lost it. So the youngest daughter went to self-sacrifice, and the older son was all in the role of a little one and in need of protection. Most of all in the world, Maya liked to study. Foreign languages, in addition to being easy for girls, also amazed her, made her heart beat fast. She easily and unobtrusively continued to study English, and in addition to it, chose Spanish and German. In her free time, she tried to practice both of these languages, new for her, mentally, and achieved a lot of success on this. Teachers celebrated the purposeful student and set her example. And their group was friendly, fun, broken. You won't get bored with such friends. Once, one of her classmates suggested walking to the local park. He was big, old, and connected the territory of 2 universities at once, their polytechnical and neighboring medical. At first, Maya was very enthusiastic about this idea. What did she not see in this park? She did not want her to find out in the end that she just lost time and did not get anything. Maybe it would be better to just sit down at the bench in the hall and learn some new Spanish verbs? Because then, after 3 hours of the day, she will run to the cafe for a shift. And today is Friday, a lot of people will come. So it's not a fact that she will be able to open the inspection until the very night when she will already fall from the foot from fatigue. While the boys were playing in the snow, and the girls were not like adult students, but in fact just schoolgirls, making snowmen, Maya watched them with some kind of a smile. She didn't understand why it happens. Someone's life generously pours out entertainment on a full roll, and someone has to be incredibly stressed out already behind the roof over his head and a piece of bread on the table. Maya did not notice, busy with her thoughts, how someone came to her and sat on the bench nearby. When she opened her eyes, she was shaken by surprise. In the half-meter was sitting a guy and carefully looking at the girl. He was tall, strong-fisted, and smooth-shaven. These were the only characteristics that Maya managed to notice at first glance at the stranger. However, the girl did not take her eyes off, but continued to look at the man as closely as he looked at her. "Hello." Finally, the man said, smiling friendly to the girl. It was clear that he was also experiencing some discomfort from their looks. "Hello." Maya answered very seriously, without taking her eyes off him. So their acquaintance with Maxim began. He was a student of the 6th year of the local medical university, and just now he was walking in the park to the public transport stop. But he saw how lonely Maya was sitting on the bench, decided to paint her day, and sat next to her in the hope that a great stranger would let him meet her. Especially urban. First, they are probably polite and gallant. while getting acquainted only at the very beginning, will persistently demonstrate all the best qualities of their character: kindness, tenderness, cheerful temper, and other virtues. But about all the shortcomings, often very numerous, the woman will find out later, often when nothing can be fixed, that she already liked a calm and patient man. But so far, she did not want to admit to herself that someone managed to attract her attention. Maya came to the same bench the next day, and then again the next. And then she began to go there regularly. Soon she began to return from such mini dates with bouquets. Nothing like insignificant souvenirs. But she was pleased. So pleased that neither in the fairy tale to say nor to describe with a pen. It was her first boyfriend. First sympathy for the person opposite sex. First relationship. Maxim knew how to take care of beautiful. She understood this already at the end of the first week of their regular meetings. To organize every date so that she would hurry there as if it were a holiday and did not know what was waiting for her. She was in anticipation and hoped. Maxim brought her all sorts of souvenirs, did not forget to wish her a good night or good morning, willingly praised her with a shiver if she brought some kind of handmaid, who somehow managed to see where, and to whom Maya was going, every big change, began to envy her. Such a handsome man would be enough. Maya did not know how lucky she was that Max paid her attention. She saw that he was genuinely interested in her and was drunk with this moment, but could not help but think that he was studying in a group, which is half of the representative of the beautiful sex. So the girl first met what is called jealousy, and she didn't like this feeling at all. In the meantime, Maxim did not give a reason to accuse him of something bad. He, on the right of, firstly, the senior, and secondly, the native resident of this city. What Maya didn't know about it was that while they were walking around the streets with Maxim, walking through the streets, he showed Maya his hometown and opened it up to the girl. It turned out that in Maxim, who decided to devote himself to massage, a true guide disappeared. Because no one on the memory of Maya could be so talented and interesting to tell about the history of that or another familiar object, to imagine it so alive and real. Before Maya and exactly on the parade, all the attractions that could only be reached were built in a row, and the most important of them she considered Maxim. Kind, not evil-minded. She was always friendly and always fun. He became her talisman and her ideal. Maxim highly valued the achievements that were in my studies. Therefore, the girl began to try even more, even harder. She just needed to prove to her boyfriend that he is not in vain on every date calls her the most. It's nice to hear compliments from a beloved man in my address. What to say? Maxim had a small apartment in which he sometimes brought Maya to visit. The girl liked that she could own there in this bachelor's suite, and from the owner of the apartment, she heard only solid compliments in response. Maxim's apartment really reminded me of a not too cozy and inhabited place. Since the owner spent a lot of time at school and then paid all his attention to Maya, some household problems accumulated, on the resolution of which Maya spent 2 whole weekends. She took off and washed the curtains, cleaned the coffee in the kitchen and in the bathroom, washed the spots of incomprehensible origin on the linoleum, and wiped off incomprehensible substances from the carpets. She was just playing around. Maxim didn't stay in debt. He tried to help her where she lived. So, for example, in her room in the dormitory, the switches and sockets started to work properly, the sink stopped to clog, and finally the gas stove in the common kitchen came to life. So even here, young people found a common language perfectly. In addition to everything else, the girl may not have been a special culinary talent, but still, both mom and grandma at one time made a lot of effort to make their girl able to make something a little more complicated than a simple fried egg in the salad. Somehow naturally and simply, Maya met Maximus' parents. One evening, she was waiting for a guy from work. And suddenly the keys were locked in the door. The girl ran out to meet him, thinking that he had come, But there was a pretty lowly woman on the threshold and a man who looked a lot like Max in his years. "Oh, you must be Maya." For some reason, the woman was very happy and stretched her hands to her. Maya tried to squeeze out a smile as sincere as possible and went to meet a guest. Maxim did not warn her that someone had to come in today, but it was clear that these were his parents. She heard so much about them from her husband that it was not difficult for her to call them by name and surname and chat in the kitchen waiting for Maxim. At the same time, the father of the man was always looking at her strangely. Maya would even like to use another word here about this strange, evaluating look. She caught on herself not once and not twice, and almost all the time that they spent with the tea. But here, Max's mother just chatted silently and made the impression of the dearest man. And how serious are they with Maxim? And how close are they already? And Maya will live with him? And they do not plan to sign? And where are Maya's relatives? And do they want to come to visit her? She asked the girl a whole bunch of questions, and she literally did not know which one to start answering first and which one later. Other questions were quite unambiguous to her. For example, the one that Mother Maxima tried to find out how close her son was with this girl. In this regard, her father and her boyfriend liked her much more. After all, he just looked at her from afar and did not ask any provocative questions. When Maxim finally stepped over the threshold of the apartment, Maya sighed with relief. The man simply switched his attention to his relatives, and she changed her mind. Yes, if they really get along with Maxim, then it will not be very pleasant for her to constantly communicate with such a niece. She got into her daughter-in-law's soul. After Maxima's parents left, politely thanking her mother for the tea, the girl finally managed to ask the boy what it was. "Don't pay attention to your mother," Maxima said. "You see, she's so worried about me. She's worried about me. I'm alone with her. So it turns out that she's worried about her son. And she liked you. I saw it. So don't worry." Maya really tried not to take into her head everything that happened between them and Maxima's parents, but she remembered his father's strange, evaluating looks for a long time. There was no anger or dissatisfaction in the eyes of this man, just an assessment, as if he was trying to understand if Maya was in line with someone. Only to him one known criterion: life flowed in its own way. Maya had time to study and work at a cafe. Maxim worked in a salon. It was his duty to do massage and connect various equipment for figure correction, and then also studied, because this year he had to serious state exams. After the meeting, Maya usually left too, and rather rarely stayed with Max for the night. But for both of them, such a life was already familiar, and they both liked it. Maxim remained for Maya a terra incognita in everything that concerned his life before they met. So, for example, the man was much older than the usual 6-year-olds. Even against the background of his classmates, he was different in age in the big picture. About why Maxim did not go to university immediately after school, the girl almost knew nothing. So, the only thing that was slightly denied was that some personal affairs were interfered. But she did not get deeper into this topic, because she did not want to spoil the past. Intuitively, Maya felt that there was nothing good about these years for Maxim. Another strange thing was Max's occasional trips with his parents to a faraway village, to his mother's home. They went there not so often, at least once a month, or even once every 3 weeks. But Maxim never contacted her from there. He was talking about the fact that the coding was very bad, which means he had nothing to talk about. And then they will still make up. Maya was strange for some reason, but more interesting. How did it happen that Max has some secrets from her? Why doesn't he invite her with him to that village? Because they meet. Maybe the man just doesn't consider their relationship quite serious? But why then, in everything else, in addition to these regular trips, they have everything so beautiful? Finally, Maya was pleased that her boyfriend was not alone, but accompanied by his parents. So everything is surely good and right there. And soon he will definitely invite her with him. Then she will be able to look with her own eyes at everything that is happening there. But the time was passing, and the invitation to the village did not come. Although Maya hinted and even spoke in direct text, "Take me with you. I won't do anything bad there. I'm from the village, so you won't have to be surprised or be angry at me." But Maxim was indecisive. "You don't need to go there. We'll visit our relatives and come back as soon as possible. Don't worry." Then Maya tried to persuade his mother to take Max with her. She thought that he would definitely listen to his mother. Moreover, they managed to make quite good relations. Neutral, of course, but still closer to warm and family. No, no. So decisively waved her hands, which almost knocked down the decorative vase, which was right there on the dresser. "There is no need to ride there. You do not understand. Max has a sick grandmother there. Well, two-faced, in the sense. She is paralyzed. They will not be happy with the owner's housing because we will bring in those conditions as a guest." Maya tried to understand the reasons why she was so hard on her to accompany Max on this trip, and she could not. Do they think that the girl could point a finger at the paralyzed old woman? And why not just say that she is sick? Maya could, on the contrary, help a little. No, she is not one of those who will touch someone else's grief. When the girl told about such a situation to her mother, she was also in a daze. An old woman could not understand from a distance for what reason a potential son-in-law behaves exactly like that and not like that. And his mother is good at it, supports all these secrets of the Madrid court and tells them. But the funny and broken Sasha put forward his own version, though in a joke. Or maybe he has a dozen lovers or ex-wives, or even their bodies. Remember the fairy tale about the blue beard from childhood? Something darkens your Maxim. Of course, the girl didn't believe her brother for a minute, but she still thought it over. Why did he say that? A man who is completely unfamiliar with the situation from the inside. Or maybe this is the most rational decision she just doesn't see because she's so deeply into Maxim. But Maya threw away these doubts, and soon she was ashamed of the fact that she thought so badly about her beloved. He wouldn't approve if he knew how she thinks about him. No. Most likely there is only an old grandmother who has to be Maxim's distant. And the point of lying to his mother is that she just became suspicious because of her love for Maxim. Maya still failed to make Maxim share this secret with her and take it with her. But he must be given the responsibility. Every trip like this lasted not long. A couple of days and here he is again in the city, again with her, and it seemed to be always like this. Soon, Maxim suggested Maya to move to his place to have an opportunity to save money and not pay for the room in the dorm. Although they took small amounts from the students, she still would not refuse to save a little from the opportunity. Therefore, Maya did not think for a long time and just moved all her things. So, Maxim and Maya lived in his apartment together. The girl liked her new life. In the morning, she could always hug Max, inhale the scent of his hair and skin, feel Natalia and his strong hands, and enjoy this magnificent moment of closeness and niche. In the evening, before going to bed, she could press her lips against the cool skin of her shoulder and drown in the enjoyment of her love. She began to think more and more about the fact that she wanted to get an offer from Max's hands and heart. Of course, they are not yet so long familiar, but it happens that the couple marry and after a month of meeting and then live all their lives happily. So why not try to do so? Only if Maxim wanted her to become his wife. But Maxim seemed not to notice her hopes and efforts. On what she did for him, reacted very happily, gave gifts, paid attention, but did not call for marriage. Although once May's hopes that she would receive a long-awaited proposal were as close and real as ever. Then the young man began to talk to her about what she would like for a family, how many children, where to live, how to raise. Maya honestly answered that she would like to raise a boy and a girl, and there it will work out, and that she has a lot of preferences on this issue. You can, and you need to agree with your partner, and that she is not in a hurry to give birth to a baby, because she does not have a diploma about higher education. The girl thought that this phrase upset Maxima. Even the corners of his lips were somewhat strangely lowered, as if he was dissatisfied with the answer that he had just heard. Why do you need a diploma to give birth to a child? The man asked with confusion. You can always study, but you can't become a mother already. Do you know how many single couples are in the country now? To be honest, Maya didn't. Think about single couples. It was not until then that she just had one, but she thought about her beloved with her own words. No, she finally answered, I do not think that a diploma is the only important thing, but still, in the end, it can happen to anyone. If something unexpected happens, then how can mom and baby live if she can't earn money for herself and him for bread? And it is desirable not only for bread, but also for the roof over his head, for studying, for clothes and shoes. In other words, it's what's called a happy and full-fledged life. Maxim convinced the girl that he understood her, but still he was angry until the very end of the evening. Then May first heard from Maxim the first criticism to her address. Quite soft, quite overvoiced, but still a criticism. She said, Why do you always think about the bad? I think that children can and need to be born. Not waiting for diplomas, sedans, pastries, passport, years, and other important things for you. Just children are important. I would like us to have a child with my future wife right after the wedding. Otherwise, what kind of family is this if there is no continuation of the childbirth? And you don't think so? What was Maya doing? To be honest, she didn't think so. That it is necessary to finish your studies first, then find a decent job and try to work for another year, then deal with the housing, and only then you need to think about what you can become parents. But how could she admit to this to her Maxim? No, it's beyond her power. She will lie. She will say that he convinced her, and then let it happen as it happens, just so that Maxim would not be disappointed in her. And she lied. Maya told Maxim that she also dreams of holding the baby in her hands as soon as possible, but she just has to be sure in her second half and the diploma, because now you can even study at the school, so the diploma will not run away from her. Maxim, as you can see, positively appreciated Maya's revelation because he stopped dating the girl, and they started to communicate normally again. And Maya walked around and thought, if she told the truth that she still considered the presence of hard soil under her feet something necessary to think about the childbirth, would he leave her or not? Who is she to him? Maxim no longer raised the topic of continuing the childbirth, and Maya was relieved. No, she, of course, still wanted to marry this great man, but it seems that it can be done later. How can it be that she will not be able to reach her goal, for which she has already made so many efforts? The job of a translator is not only interesting, but also very money-making. Maya saw on the example of her parents that her penny is her penny. You can never stay without a financial pillow and the opportunity to provide for yourself. Winter colds were replaced by warm spring days, and then there, in front, the sunny summer was already, so that Max would admire her and could not take his eyes away from her. The natural desire to like, multiplied by the attractiveness of youth and He was sitting in a cafe and couldn't begin to talk about the topic that interested him. Of course, he understood that he had already gone a long way and still had to talk, because he was not just looking for and finding such a girl. From the village, with the absence of a large number of relatives, and from the account view of influential, insincere material prospects in life, and even without a home. In other words, the perfect candidate for what he needed. And now he must continue his game. The man convinced himself that this is just a game. It's just that for him this is a meaningless game, and you don't have to build any illusions on this account. And Maya will not suffer in general. Perhaps later, when everything ends, he will even give her money so that she disappears from the city and does not connect them anymore. And maybe he won't. Then he'll probably have completely different troubles, much more pleasant. So don't over-dramatize the situation. You just need to finish what he's been going to for more than a year, and for what he's been suffering for 3 months now. Maxim had already opened his mouth to voice what he was going to do, and then changed his mind, translated the conversation into some insignificant topics or just joking. He did not recognize himself. What happened to him? Why can't he complete his brilliantly developed and perfectly embodied plan in reality? Why did he suddenly feel sorry for this girl? Almost a child yet. There is nothing to feel sorry for her, because no one will feel sorry for him. That Maya is just an ideal candidate from her point of view. You just need to show persistence now, and she will not go anywhere. She will agree to everything. Mom has just phenomenal sense of humor. It's not in vain that she worked as a gynecologist for so many years. Maxim sighed because he remembered about the only. And now we have to look for a solution with such exotic ways. Okay, what else is this? In principle, no matter what he did there, and now, at this moment, he does not wish May anything bad. So you can safely say why he actually brought her here. Not for the same reason, though, to admire the views of the cafe and spend a large amount on food that could be cooked at home if desired. Maxim sighed quietly and gained courage. She looked at him like that. The anticipation of something in her eyes froze so much that he could not even pick up words. The anticipation of a holiday, or what? Mom was right. Girls are waiting for this invitation to get married, an offer of a hand and a heart, as something phenomenally desirable. Why is that? Why do men not need this to such an extent? But no matter how it is, it's good that it is exactly so. Because otherwise, if Maya were not one of those who would sell her soul for the opportunity to get a ring on her finger, nothing would have worked for him. And he would go with a broken heart, and with his head tilted where he has been going for so long. But now they have hope that he can fix everything. Maxim finally made the final decision and got the courage. He himself did not know how it happened that now for him there was literally no obstacle or problem. Even all these torments of personal character, all doubts and inconsistencies went to the background. And he leaned over to Maya, looking at her through the table that divided them. Maya, I wanted to tell you long ago, or rather, I wanted to ask you long ago, if you would agree to marry me. At the first moment, the girl thought that she had heard. Well, she made a mistake, it happens. She just wanted these words so much. She was so eager to them, and she wished so much that she accepted the fact that had just been said to Maxim. She continued to look into the eyes of the man, as if expecting. What else can he say? Probably something insignificant, some joke. Could he really make her a proposal now? Or did she overhear? Maya, will you marry me? Maxim repeated louder, and now the girl realized that these were not games of her imagination and hallucinations. Maxim really made her a proposal. She is now a bride. She is getting married. Maya smiled widely and could not keep her mouth shut. With a fever that she did not even try to hide, she answered the words of her beloved man. Of course, she will become his wife, with great pleasure. She loves him more than life, and therefore why not marry them? They will become a wonderful couple. Maxim was obviously glad to make such a turn. He continued to squeeze Maya's palm in his hand, and he kept talking and talking and talking. The girl listened to her beloved, but she was not. Here mentally. Probably all girls will just die of envy. I need to tell Mom today that she is now a bride. I wonder if they will have time to submit a statement to the registry office tomorrow? What dress will she choose for herself? Probably the most beautiful, gentle, and airy, so that the bride would have a long coat and a chic bouquet. Meanwhile, Maxim was going to take everything in his own hands. When the girl listened to his words more carefully, she was a little disappointed in the upcoming celebration, because it turned out that there would be no grand party. Max did not consider it necessary to spend money on dusting the eyes. He said that they would have enough paint, and then they would just sit in a restaurant with their parents. And the dress has not been fashionable for a long time. It's just an old story. And what to do with the city's role? Just a mousetrap. It's better to invest this money in something more useful. And yes, the most important thing is that he expects Maya not to turn back on his words, and immediately after the wedding they will plan the baby. Although if she considers it possible, then even a wedding should not be expected. They will always be together anyway. So what's the difference when? A month earlier, a month later. Maya didn't want to disappoint Maxim so much that she agreed to everything. Let everything be as he wants. And then they will figure it out. In the end, really, what's the difference? How to celebrate the wedding if they don't care about living their whole life? They decided on that. That evening, Maya returned home as a bride. And immediately, as she received such an opportunity, she pleased. The girl was incredibly happy, so much so that she did not even notice the sympathetically sad eyes that sometimes, as if apologizing, threw a groom at her. And then the preparation for the wedding went wrong. Since the solemn registration simply did not go into the plans of the young wives, it was decided not to delay for a whole month. Maya and Maxim asked to sign them as soon as possible and went to meet them. For registration, Maya bought a cute ivory-colored dress. Light, but not lush. It could later be worn for walks or just for theater, so she stopped her choice on it. Maxim seemed to have no interest in anything related to the wedding. More and more he was gloomy, as if not from the world of everything. Suddenly starts to feel sad as if he remembered something not very good. The girl wrote it down on the colossal nervous tension that her young man has experienced in recent days. There were state exams in the medical field, because, in her opinion, there was a lack of sentiments for Maxim. But everything is fine. Everything ends well. All the preparation was already behind. All the organizational. All exams were passed, and it was possible to enjoy long-awaited vacations. Only 5 days left before the marriage registration. When Maxim said that he would go back to the village, only for 2 days, Maya persistently asked him for the first time. She is almost married, and she will not say anything offensive to his paralyzed double-parent grandmother. Maxim may not worry about this. What kind of family are they if they can't support each other in such a difficult matter as taking care of old relatives? Maya told the groom everything she thought about this topic and went to collect a bag for a trip to the village. But it wasn't here. I said, "No." Maxim said everything in the same loud voice as he said in a minute of extreme anger. "No, that's it. I'll go there alone, and you'll wait for me here." He said so confidently that Maya didn't even find out what to answer him. She just stood and watched how Max was going to, and how he was leaving his apartment with a bag on his shoulder. Now she felt like some kind of humiliated and depressed. Can you behave like that? If a man called her married, then should he trust her anyway? Or not? 2 days flew by unnoticed. Here Maxim did not lie. He came cheerful, missing his bride. And immediately from the start, he started to discuss the painful topic. I suggest not to put the child in a long box. Come on, start planning, otherwise it is not known yet how much time it will take. Are you ready? To be honest, Maya was not ready for the 2 days. She didn't change her mind. And what thoughts didn't come to her mind? And the most harmless were those that should first be looked at in this marriage, and then bring the child to light. And then it is not known what else Maxim is hiding in the village. Sasha is of course a great inventor and one big walking problem, but in something he could be right. Smoke without fire does not happen. Something is wrong there. And then, why does Maxim insist that they can't wait for anything? Something is wrong here. But the smart thoughts remained as thoughts. Maya couldn't refuse her beloved. Maxim was able to take over her soul and body, and therefore the girl did everything he told her. Mom and brother came to the modest registration of the marriage strictly on time. They knew that they had nowhere to spend the night in the city, and therefore decided not to stay at the grand banquet that was planned by the joint restaurant owners. As soon as the young couple became husbands and wives, the relatives congratulated Maya and left. The bus to the station will not wait. And Maya, with her newly married husband, went to the restaurant with his parents. She didn't imagine her own wedding like that. Not at all. Everyone was so gloomy, even Maxim was not in the mood. What happened to them? Or is he not happy anymore? The table seats on the open veranda did not remind me of the wedding. There were no decorations, no screams of sadness. Even the menu was simple and unobtrusive. Maxim found an opportunity to save here. Maya sat like on the needles, and with great difficulty hid her disappointment. At some point she felt unwell. Her head was spinning and she wanted to lie down, or just lie down with her forehead on something cool. There was no one else at the table at that moment, except her. Max's parents went out to the air, and he went to accompany them. Therefore, the girl got up and went to them. And at the same time there will be an opportunity to spend time together. When Maya already took the door handle to go to the balcony, on which Maxim and his parents stood, she suddenly heard an incomprehensible conversation. And then, as she listened, the bride's face changed more and more. She did not expect this. "I told her," said the young husband, interrupted by excitement with his voice, "that it was not long to wait, that today we have already done everything. Now it's up to the little one. He will get pregnant, take it out, give birth and say goodbye. Can you help me to get everything done, Mom? Nadia and I are really counting on you." "Of course I will help." This was the mother-in-law who said. "How can it be otherwise? Don't worry about it. This is your t-shirt. It doesn't even guess anything." Phew, what a nasty name they picked up. They called the cow a honest word by the parents. Well, it's a shame to get rid of it. And the criminal is clean, right? You should have decided everything with her sooner, and you stopped talking. It wasn't enough for him to start taking revenge on you. Maxim was silent for a while, and my heart was beating so fast that she almost couldn't breathe. What are these people talking about? What do they really need from her? What kind of help does Maxim want from the unknown? "Nadia, don't talk about the girl like that. I feel sorry for her," said her father, her newly married husband. "You're all laughing. You only need one thing from her. And I would like you, son, to be used and thrown out. Hardly, right?" Maya stood, listened, and could not understand anything. What is going on here? What does all this mean? What are these people discussing? And why even hear Maxim says that they plan to give birth to a child? What kind of sick topic is that? It's so abnormal. Maya remembered how some time ago even her in-laws started talking to her about the fact that it would be nice to come to her for work, to examine her because young girls are not all as healthy as they would like. So you need to keep your hand on your pulse. And they need healthy children with Maxim. Then Maya took it as a concern. So far, hypothetical grandchildren, but now I saw something much more serious here. Something that she can't just pick up the name. They definitely thought of something, and this is something directly related to Maxim's trips to the village. Or not to the village. How would she find out all this? She preferred to quietly return to the table and sit there in complete solitude, waiting for the return of Maxim and his parents. What to do with her? Tell her to go around the area, or pretend that she knows nothing. Surprisingly, the Mayan hermit returned completely alone. Everyone stayed there. The air was already painful fresh. He explained to the bride, and immediately, "Nadia would like it, I wonder." For some reason, Maya said, without thinking to the end, that she was blabbing. But in the eyes of the man, fear swung. She managed to notice it. A couple more minutes they spent silently, as if strangers, but at the same time connected tightly with one secret. Maya, out of excitement, knocked her nails on the plate, and the father-in-law just didn't raise his eyes from the scat. But then the man suddenly said. She was silent, as if she was a schoolboy who was afraid that he was being eavesdropped. "I understand perfectly well that you don't know about Nadia, otherwise you wouldn't be sitting here. You won't be able to make up with such a person. I'll tell you everything, and then you can think for yourself what to do." Maya got tense and looked at this man carefully. What else is he up to? She learned from her father-in-law completely wild, incomprehensible things. It turns out that when Maxim was young, he fell in love with the. Immediately after school, young people were going to get married. They might not have been in such a hurry, but the reason was sharp. The girl was already pregnant. In principle, no one doubted that together they would live their whole lives. Such was incredible, this love. But it turned out everything was not as desired. On the 5th month, a couple of days before the registration of the marriage, Nadia had a complete discrepancy of placenta. The girl barely died from bleeding. Nothing foreshadowed such a final pregnancy, and nothing said for even more tragic course of events. To save the girl from death, she had to remove her mother. It is difficult to overestimate the nightmare that was experienced then by the madly in love Maxim and Nadezhda. Immediately after the discharge from the maternity home, Nadia was admitted to a psychiatric hospital due to a shuddering mental health. The girl could only live in her dreams of having a child, but without a mother, giving birth to her became impossible. Maxim did not give up. He got a transfer from his favorite city hospital to a village psychoneurological hospital, and there, in the fresh air, a strong remission took place. But Nadia still wanted a child. Maxim agreed to take any child from the orphanage, but the girl did not want it. She wanted to get, if not her own, a blood one. Doctors strongly did not recommend her to do stimulation to take her e-cycles, at least to her own Max, the baby. So the idea was born. The man should find a fool who will agree to give birth to him, sign with her to have the right to her baby, and then, with the help of the mother of the gynecologist, do so that everyone thinks that the child died in the wild. The doctor can do it without any problems. It's hard to sign the bride's resignation. And what would she prove later? The child would anyway get to Nadia and Maxim. If not one way, then another. And in May, there would be no one to stand up for. The village relative will not be able to find the right and guilty. Then Maxim would reconnect with his beloved Nadia all these years within the framework of a happy family, with a newborn baby, and they would have been fine. The girl listened and did not believe what she heard. Could her Maxim do this to her? Could he count on using her body even without her knowledge and consent? Maybe the father-in-law is just making up, doing so that they quarreled with Max right at their own wedding? Can it really be the way he told her now? But Maya understood some sixth sense. Maybe. That's exactly how it is. She just became part of the unclean plan, which she managed to break by pure chance. No one thought of falling in love with her. Maxim always needed not her, but her body as an opportunity to have a blood child. The opportunity to fulfill what the only one really wanted. He never loved anyone else. And she, Maya, just happened to be at hand. The girl looked at her daughter-in-law carefully for the last time. She barely noticed and bowed down, as if in gratitude. She got up from the table and left the restaurant. She didn't even plan to take her things from Max's apartment. Sasha will call, and he will take care of this tomorrow. Now she will not communicate with Max on the phone or live. And yes, you need to change the SIM card, just in case. Maya married only in the 5th year of university. Her chosen one became a single man, a person who was checked in all relations, who did not have the habit of disappearing somewhere with a strange periodicity. But before having children, Maya tried to find out her husband. So, just in case, Maya was able to call herself a happy mother and wife, and she is still grateful to her for the fact that he did not remain silent and resist. In the end, it was this person, although not wanting to literally save her, and gave Maya a chance to become happy. They have never seen Maxim again in their lives.